here we are. Kenny Bayless and his brother, Kermit Bayless, and I will refer to him as Kerm. So when you hear that, don't get thrown off. But I am over glad that he was able to come on to the show. The official call, which I co-host with Robert Byrd. Robert Byrd is not available, but in his place is my twin brother, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yes. We got a lot to cover, And I just want to let the boxing fans know up front that there is two of us. You don't have to adjust your set or anything. Because a lot of boxing fans did not know that there were two of us. And because they didn't, Kerm would get, I'm not going to say attacked, but would get confronted by boxing fans either wanting to take pictures with them or sign autographs. And Kermit, why don't you share those moments with us?
Okay. Well, it started back a few years back, over 25 years ago, when Kenny became a referee with the Nevada State Athletic Commission before I became a boxing judge with the California State Athletic Commission. He was with the Nevada State, I was with the California State. And so those 4 or 5 years that Kenny was with the Nevada State Athletic Commission, he was beginning to build a reputation, as a referee, and especially after he did the Bernard Hopkins Oscar De La Hoya fight. Then his popularity soared. But prior to that, when I became a judge with the California State Athletic Commission, and I had a couple assignments, whether in Sacramento or in Stockton, California, I was approached by some boxing fans, and they come up to me and say, "Hey, Kenny, can I take a picture?" And my response to them would be, "Well, I'm sorry, I'm not Kenny. I'm his brother." And the fans were persistent. They'd say, "Oh no, come on, Kenny. I just want to take a picture. Let's take a picture." And I was persistent as well. I'd say, "I'm not Kenny. I'm Kermit. I'm his twin brother." And then it got to the point where they'd say, "Man, you just don't want to take a picture with me. That's all that is." I said, No, I'm serious." And to some fans, I would pull out my driver's license. It didn't matter. They wanted a picture with Kenny Bayless. And so this had gone on for several months. And so I come to Vegas. And so, I'm with Kenny one day, and I said, "Man, you're really getting pretty popular. People are coming up to me when I work in either Sacramento or Stockton or Fresno, wherever the venue is. More and more people are coming up to me saying they want to take a picture with you, Kenny Bayless." And I'd say, "No, I'm not Kenny Bayless." So Kenny thing was,
What's with this? What is he doing about reputation? What's with this guy?
He stopped the action and said, "What, did you take a picture?" And I said, "No, I didn't take the picture because I'm not Kenny. I'm Kermit." And he said, "You idiot. Take the picture." And I looked at him, I'm going, he was hostile. Take the picture.
Take the picture.
And I said,
"Take the picture."
He said, "People would think that I'm Can I say this?
Say it.
People would think that this is what he said, that I'm an asshole. Take the picture.
Take the picture.
I went, oh, okay, all right. I'll start taking the picture. He said, man, take the picture.
Take the
See,
picture.
people think that they don't know who you are. They know who I am. Take the doggone picture. So ever since then, I've been taking the picture.
And I'm going to add this. Boxing fans coming to a fight, a venue, and getting close to either the referee or the fighters, that's a thrill of a life for them.
Oh, yeah.
So getting that picture or getting that autograph, I have in my career always made it a plan to try to sign as many autographs, take as many pictures as possible. And I certainly did not want a fan to walk away, upset and mad or with an attitude because Kenny Bayless didn't take a picture with him. And when me and my brother got inducted into the National Boxing Hall of Fame, which took place 2 years ago in Montebello, California, that was a very, very big moment. And I know that, I felt that then the doors were going to open for people to know that I am a twin. Share some moments with that.
Well, it was a big moment for me as well because whenever people saw me, they saw Kenny Bayless. They never saw Kermit Bayless. So I'd gotten to the point to where, it was commonplace. I was taking pictures with little boys and little girls, women. It got to the point to where I had gotten accustomed to it. So when I finally got the notification that I was being inducted along with Kenny into the National Boxing Hall of Fame, I was elated because the both of us had been inducted into Berkeley High School's Hall of Fame. The both of us had been inducted into Cal State University East Bay Hall of Fame. And so now the both of us again have been inducted into the National Boxing Hall of Fame.
But tell the fans what you did at the National Boxing Hall of Fame with those credentials, putting your picture on a credential, which actually also was a part of your speech when you were sharing the love of trying to get people to understand more that there are two of us.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, what he's referring to is at the National Boxing Hall of Fame, I had credentials. Normally at fights, they have credentials for people, officials and high-ranking individuals. They wear a credential. And so I had some credentials made with me and Kenny's picture on it. And so when I had my chance, when I was called to the podium to accept being honored and being on this National Boxing Hall of Fame member, I acknowledged that now finally people can see that there's two of us. There's Kermit Bayless and there's Kenny Bayless. And so and that I was going to wear, I should have had it on right now, the credential with the two of us. We were wearing the same thing, but as I was pointing out to the people in the audience, there's two of us, not one, and so forth. And it was an excellent experience, a great experience that the both of us was inducted again into a scenario where we both were inducted at the same time.
It was great. It was a moment that definitely for us goes down into the archives. This sport of boxing and how we got involved in this sport of boxing, especially. And I ran a little track. My brother became a 3-time All-American. Tried out for the 72 Munich Games Olympics. He tried out in the States to make that team. fell just a race short, and then again tried out in '76 at the Montreal Games. Again, he fell short a race before possibly making the Olympic team. But I came here in '72 to pursue a teaching career. Boxing was not even on my mind other than watching Muhammad Ali back in the day when he used to fight on my mom's old black and white television. And but when I moved here, I ended up going to a fight 6 months after I moved here when Muhammad Ali fought a fighter by the name of Joe Buckner, and that turned me out. It turned me out to the point where I started going to every boxing match here in Southern Nevada. And when it got to the point to where I wanted to get involved in the sport, I didn't know nothing about the sport. So I started judging. I got hooked up with a guy that was the chief of officials named Lou Tabbitt, and I started judging the fights. Now Kerm has moved to Las Vegas. Like I said, tried out for the '76 Olympic team, and we both united together, started going to the amateurs with us. So we both were judging, the both of us. And like Kerm said earlier, he ended up moving to California, and because of his move to California, I insisted him to get involved in the California Commission. So once he did, I was in now as a referee. He was in as a judge. And prior to going in as a referee, I was also an inspector with the Nevada Commission. Now, tell us, when you got in the amateurs and was working your way through, what was that like? Not pursuing track and field now, being the star that you was, and now pursuing boxing.
It was a shift. The track and field injuries, I believe, is why I fell short of making the team for the most part. But injuries plagued me. So when I moved to Vegas back in '75, Kenny was already here for a couple of years. And we both went to Cal State Hayward and got our degrees. And so with Muhammad Ali still fighting, just like what Kenny said, I watched, it was, let's see, my first big fight wasn't Muhammad Ali. It was Roberto Duran. And I watched Roberto Duran in that ring. It was at Caesar's Palace. And he fought, I think it was Esteban de Jesus.
You're exactly right. Esteban de Jesus.
Okay, and it went down to the later rounds, and he knocked out Esteban, and the corner jumped in the ring, and he was going to knock them out. He was so fired up, and yes. I was just entrenched, and so we ended up, Johnny Lehman. Johnny Lehman was worked with the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
An inspector.
He was an inspector. And so he kind of took me and Kenny under his wing. And prior to that, we would get into the fights through the back gate over the fence. And so so Johnny Lehman, cut all that out, because Kenny would be in the red corner, I would be in the blue corner, and after the fights, we get the gloves. Or we did the odd jobs for Johnny Lehman, so that he didn't have to do as much running around. We did a lot of the running around for him. And so he was always saying, you guys are young, you need to get involved in the boxing game. And so That being the case, we were, like Kenny said, we started doing amateurs. We started out doing amateur judging. And so from that, Kenny moved into refereeing as as his option, and I was having some problems with the school district at the time, and so I ended up moving back to California. And so Kenny was still in Nevada trying to move his way up, and we all know that it took him longer than it should have for him to get from an amateur judge to professional, but he stuck with it. My mother always said she didn't like quitters, stick with it. So Kenny stuck with it and finally got in as a professional, and I'm back in California, and I was pretty much about to throw the towel in with being a part of the game of professional boxing. And so, Kenny finally told me, try out with the California State Athletic Commission. And so I finally went ahead and tried out, went and applied and went through their training. And after a year, I got on, just like that. And so that's when I said earlier, when I was working fights in Sacramento or Fresno or Stockton, and I ran into fans, but the fans would come up to me and thinking that I was Kenny Bayless, and I got reprimanded by Kenny. And
yeah. We've already talked about that. I want to get into home. You move back home, and I want the fans to get a chance to see what it was like, what we were like back then. As I want to first show this picture, and this is a picture of us back in the day. We were probably 5 or 6 years old. I think it was 5, but it could have been 6. And for something for the fans, quickly let the fans know which one are you, which one is me, before I move on to the next picture.
Well, of course, I'm the good-looking one on the right. Nobody can make that mistake.
Yes.
And there's Kenny on the left.
Yes. Well, that was always my pet peeve growing up. 2 things people would always say when they say, twins. And they would say, who's the oldest? Which he was 9 minutes older. And then they would stand us next to each other to see who was the tallest. It used to irk me all the time. But anyway, to show you what the family looked like, in this picture, you can see my mom, you can see both me and Kerm, and my oldest brother. His name was Charles. That's an earlier picture. So I go from that picture to go to let you see what it was like when we were at Longfellow Elementary School. Twins were not hard to find back when we were in elementary school. As you can see, me and Kerm are standing right there. Me, the good-looking one. As you see, he didn't even smile in the picture. But in any case, you can see fraternal twins as well as identical twins. And that's how fruitful Longfellow Elementary School was back in the day that we attended. And then I believe I got one more here. Well, this picture is, let me see. It was a class. Oh, I wanted to just show you a couple of pictures when Kermit was running for Cal State. The both of us, and in this picture, he was the number 2 fastest quarter miler in the nation, and the guy you see right behind him was number 1. That was a classic epic 4x4 race, as what was the white kid's name?
Hugh Brown.
Hugh Brown tried to run Kerm down and was not able to do so. And the same thing happened at the Fresno relays, which was another prestigious North versus South race or meet that a runner tried to run Kermit down and was not able to do it. I did have one more race or a couple of more, I don't know, and this goes back a few years when Lee Evans won the 68 400 meter gold medal champion. And as you can see, Kermit is in that race because he was a top profile runner back then. And like I said earlier, he just fell a little short of making the Olympic team.
Make sure you get your finger off him so they can see my picture.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry about that. So anyway, that just gives you a little idea as to what it was like for us growing up. And now when we move into the pro years, when Kerm was judging, I'd like for you to share with the fans what judging was like as a pro, and share when you judged a fight at the Staples Center that involved Sugar Shane Mosley. We've had Sugar Shane on the show, and what it's like, the concentration that one must have, especially when you're got fans cheering and yelling, what it's like and what's the level of concentration you have to make sure that you do a top quality job as a judge.
Well, the judging is something that you have to have 150% concentration. And as an athlete, the shift from track and field to boxing, of course, the difference is in track and field is who gets to the line first, who throws the discus the farthest, who throws the javelin the farthest, or in the pole vault, who pole vaults the highest. So the event finish line or the distance determine the victor, who wins. Whereas in boxing is a whole lot different. Now you're sitting and you're watching two combatants at will, throwing and trying to score on the opponent. And so you have to have total concentration. Not only total concentration, but keep in mind, you have arenas that seat 20, 25, 30,000 people. And so that being the case, your concentration, unless you have a knockout, if the opponent has been knocked out, then of course your scorecard doesn't matter. But on those close, tight fights, when you've got two combatants that are equally skilled, and then that fight goes to the distance, you don't want to be left with, did I score it the right way? And so going back to the question Kenny asked about a fight I did at the Staples Center, actually, there was a couple of fights in Southern California that I did. And one was at the Staples Center with Sugar Shane Mosley. And I know I'm not his best fan anymore because, it was a very difficult fight, a very hard fight, in my opinion, for him. And I scored it for the challenger. And I'm not going to go into a lot of rhetoric about it because, to my knowledge, there hasn't been I don't know of any judges that have come out and gave a reference to why and how they scored a fight the way that they did. So I don't want to get any big trouble with the California or the Nevada State Athletic Commission and give a detailed account, other than I'll say this much. Sitting behind me, not more than 4 feet directly behind me,
How many rows? 2 rows? 3
the
rows?
first row,
Okay.
sitting directly behind me was Magic Johnson. And Magic Johnson sat with his entourage. And they were all pulling for and cheering for Sugar Shane Mosley. And I was sitting, and they were right over my shoulder. You know, I could hear Magic clearly, and all of his entourage sitting right with him. And they were cheering. Sugar Shane won that round. And I was sitting there, and after every round, I said a prayer. And I said, score the fight the way you see it. You cannot be influenced by, this was highly irregular. Right behind you, you hear fans way up in the rafters. You hear them all over the place. But here is Magic and his whole entourage. And I kept saying, and after every round, I'd say a prayer and say, score the fight the way you see it. Not to be influenced by what's coming from over your shoulder. And that was one of the hardest fights that I judged. And of course, when the fight was over and the announcer, Kermit Bayless scored it 15-13, for Sugar Shane's opponent, I was heavily booed because it was at least 90% crowd was pulling for Sugar Shane Mosley, okay? But the second judge scored it 14-14. So between my scorecard and the second judge's scorecard, we were 1 round difference. And that says an awful lot from a scorecard when a fight was that close.
Yes.
That close was
Yes.
1 round difference.
Yes.
The third judge was he was 118, 112. It was way off, in my opinion, compared to the other 2 judges. Because I had 15-13, the second judge had 14-14, and the end result is what they all be looking for, is that what was the end result of the fight? And it ended up a draw.
Yeah.
And everybody walking out of there said, well, I can live with that because that fight was just that close. There was another fight at the Forum, and I was the odd man out on that fight.
Well, explain to people, how does it feel to a judge being the odd man out? 2 judges said it for the fighter in the blue corner, and 1 judge said it for the fighter in the red corner. How does that make you feel?
It's not a good feeling, especially after you have scored the fight, and you have scored the fight honestly, to the best of your ability. I've talked to other judges, and other judges have said to me, man, that's the way I saw it, and they're the odd man out. They're not comfortable with that. You're never comfortable when you're sitting right there ringside, and you scored the fight based on everything that you saw. Who was scoring in the effective scoring zone area? You're taking everything into consideration, and then you scored it one way, and the other 2 judges scored it differently from you.
Right.
And then what even makes it worse is this contest I scored at the Forum. I watched the fight the following week when it came on one of the network channels, and I'm watching the fight, and I'm still with my decision, okay? And then after the fight, then you have the commentators ragging. Those commentators ragged me so bad. I sat there and I said to myself, now wait a minute. And they was, How could he see that? And the other two judges had it close, 15-13. I just went the other way.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah, and so it's not a good feeling, especially when you have the commentators on top of it. And it can happen to any judge.
Not only can it happen to any judge, we all know that judging is subjective.
Yes.
I've been, just like you've been, to many, many seminars, and we have sat in rooms, and we've had judges look at a round with the sound turned down
Mm-hmm.
and score the round. And when the round is close, it's like flipping a coin.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect example, we just saw a fight a couple weeks ago with Barrios, the WBC champ, fought Manny Pacquiao. That was a close fight.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of people come up to me and thought that Manny Pacquiao won. The fight ended up a draw. I can't argue with a draw. I can't. Judges, just like referees, have a code of ethics that we live by as far as giving our opinions on if the punch was low or if the punch was scoring or whatever the case may be. Judging is real easy if the fight is an easy fight to judge. But when you take that hard, close one, and the judges now got to buckle down in that seat, and like he said, when that bell rings, you got to make a decision because that referee's coming around to get your scorecard, to take it over to give to the head table, and you don't get to see that anymore. You've made your decision. You've given that slip to the referee. It's over at the head table being tabulated, and you're focusing in on the next round.
Yes. And if I could add one or two things, back in the day, this is going way back to the late 70s. And I remember there was a fight and a judge had scored out of it was either 12 rounds. I think they had just went from 15 to 12 rounds. And the judge had scored 8 rounds a draw out of 12. 8 rounds a draw. And of course, we score on the 10-point must system. If we don't, if the round, we couldn't decide if fighter A or fighter B won the round, we scored 10-10. But normally it's a 10-point must. So we give the fighter that wins the round 10 points, the fighter that we felt lost the round 9 points.
Yes.
Well, this particular judge had scored 10 rounds, 10-10. So what he was saying was he couldn't tell who won the round 8 times. And later I heard that they had come out with a rule. I wasn't a judge at the time. This, like I said, this goes back a ways. They had came out with a rule and said that judges have to make a decision. Okay, you've got to give it to fighter A or fighter B. You can only have one 10-10 round because you're a judge. You can't have more than 2, 3. You can only have one. So we have to make a decision. And the decision is not easy, especially when you've got down to 2 minutes and 55, 56, and the fight is just that close.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for something to push it one way or the other. Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, we know that as an official in boxing, referee or judging, the reason why we have seminars, the reason why we go to different camps. I just had a referee earlier today teaching him certain things. He's an amateur referee. He wants to become professional. And this is a part of me giving back. But again, and you've said it, to do what we do takes time, it takes work, and it takes dedication. And this young guy that I had in the gym today, I said, that ring is like your office. You know that your office, forwards, backwards, up, down, you name it. because you're the only one that when you get in there, it's all on you. You got two fighters in there that you're dealing with, but it's all on you. But how many years total would you say that you've been involved in the sport of boxing?
I've been involved.
Yes, from the amateurs to where you are now. You're still actively judging fights. You worked on the Pacquiao-Barreras fight. There's a big fight card that's coming up in September 13th, which is Bud Crawford will be fighting Canelo Alvarez. I'm sure you haven't gotten word on that yet because it's a little too soon.
Right.
But you're still actively judging, which I applaud you. I applaud you.
Yes, I appreciate that. Over 40 years.
40 years.
40 years since the late 70s.
Yes.
Johnny Lehman is the one that was.
You mentioned Johnny Lehman, and I would just like to say this about Johnny Lehman. When Johnny Lehman kind of took us under his wings, he couldn't get us a credential to every big fight, but if he could, he did. And when it came time for him to retire, he put my name in, Johnny Lehman, to become an inspector. And the executive director at the time appointed me as an inspector, which I thank Johnny Lehman, because that was added to the part of my journey, which you fans have not had the chance for me to share, which will probably be on a later episode. It will happen. It will. But for the most part, the sport has been good to both of us. I, as you know, am retired referee now, but I'm giving back as much as I can. Our show, me and Robert Byrd are doing is something that we choose to give back to the sport of boxing. And at the same time, our main focus is to educate our fans to the sport, so that when they see things, they won't be so judgmental in their comments and remarks or their boos, as opposed to knowing either what the rule is, how the rule plays out in the decision that the referee made in the ring, or the score that the judges made.
Yeah.
And so anyway, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close? It's been a joy having you on. And again, I hope that the many fans that don't know that we're twins do know that we're twins now. Anything you like to add and close?
You've covered it pretty good from the fan standpoint. Just keep in mind, if you go to a boxing event, are you going to the boxing event with preconceived ideas on who you want to win? Okay. When you go to a boxing event, did your boyfriend or your girlfriend, did they bet on a particular fighter to win? See, so when you go to a boxing event, if you go and you've got these elements that are already in play before you get there, then you're going to be pulling for that fighter, and that fighter could get knocked down and get the stew beat out of him, but you still might think your fighter won.
You have a bias. You've created a bias already.
That's right.
Before the first bell rung.
That's right. So keep that in mind. We want all the fans to go and enjoy themselves, but keep that in mind as a person that's going to enjoy themselves and so forth and have a good time. I just like to say that I'm honored to be on this program. I'd like to come back again and talk more about subjects of this matter and different subjects of controversy, if you like. It makes no difference to me. I'm full of them. I got a bunch to share, but I just want to say thank you again to you, Robert Byrd, for having me on your show.
And we have to give some shout out to Miss Kales, our producer. She does a wonderful, fantastic job, and we just thank the Lord uh, and give him kudos for what he has done for not only our careers but what he's doing for us for the future. So again, this is the official call. We're again thankful that you are part of the show, and share our episode, this episode, with your friends. The more people that know that there's two of us, the better. Thank you and good night.